Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal. This is our last section of the Triggernometry interview with Dr. Calum Miller. It's very short, entitled UK Spending on Overseas Abortion. Looks short. I'm not sure whether the reaction is going to be short.
Calum Miller, it has been an absolute pleasure. It's been so interesting. Before we go, and before we do our questions for locals, we always end our interviews with one final question, which is, what's the one thing we're not talking about, but we really should be?
It's such a difficult question because there's so many things. One thing that we didn't really touch on in the interview is money that's spent overseas on abortion. So the UK government spends millions and millions of pounds overseas trying to change other countries' laws, which is pretty much the definition of colonialism.
The US does that too, and the UN. In fact, if I understand correctly, World Bank will deprive money to countries unless they liberalize their abortion laws. They literally are bribing these countries into allowing abortion when it is counter to the prevailing culture of that country.
Imperialism. Millions are spent on it, often through organizations with links to the one-child policy, through organizations that have been banned from countries for criminal activity, and so
also Planned Parenthood is very involved in this. If you look at the Chinese one-child policy, the Chinese arm of Planned Parenthood boasts on their website about how they've provided millions of employees and volunteers to the voluntary population control efforts, and these population control efforts are voluntary the same way that confessions during the Inquisition were voluntary. They threaten and torment and threaten and torment and threaten and torment until they get you to say okay. You're going to lose your job. Your husband's going to lose his job. You're going to lose your housing. Your child's going to lose housing. Your child's going to lose education. And, eventually they get her signature and they go, see, this was voluntary. And Planned Parenthood had no problem supporting that. They proudly supported the voluntary one-child policy.
So I know this is sort of coming out of left field to some extent, but it's another element of the debate which I think really isn't spoken about much. And we, as people paying taxes in this country, who want our tax to go to people who really need it, to people who are at the margins of society, I think it's really, really concerning that it goes basically to abortion and promoting abortion in countries where the public don't agree with it. And so I think that's something that we really need more of a conversation on in this country about in particular.
Well, thank you for coming on the show in Britain.
Also, I would recommend that you read Betsy Hartman's excellent book, Reproductive Rights and Wrongs, that really looks hard at government policies, non-governmental organizations such as the UN and the World Health Organization, and how they just they put on their hobnail boots and trample poor women in developing countries. I think most people would be absolutely appalled about this. These pushes for abortions overseas are not pushes for the women to have choices. That's full stop. So I know this is a really short video, but again, I recommend that you follow the link below and enjoy the entire interview.